Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed. Today we're on another deep dive episode. This week is Syndicate, and I believe it is the 9th game in the series. Today's a bit different. Josh isn't with us. He's celebrating a birthday, so I hope he has a fantastic day with his family and a great shout out to him. But we are not actually alone. We are joined by Arshak, who's a great friend of mine and creator of the Twitter fan page Creed Landmarks. I'm not too sure what the Twitter fan page is about, so maybe we could pass over to my good friend and he can tell us a bit about himself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Arshak. I am the creator of the Twitter fan page Creed Landmarks, of course, and the Creed Landmarks is basically I give you historical research on historical landmarks and people that exist in the Assassin's Creed world. And a lot of people have been liking it so far, and I've been pretty crazy about it. So yeah, I'm excited about this podcast.
Who isn't excited?
Yes,
we're doing Syndicate.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do.
So before we jump into the planned action, because you're a guest, and I love guests, and guests love me, why don't you kick us off?
You.
Oh, thank you. Why don't you kick off with a small brief of why you like or dislike Assassin's Creed Syndicate?
Well, I like Assassin's Creed Syndicate because it was the last game where the Assassin's Creed series went all the way forward, and that's as far forward as I want them to go. Seriously, go back in time. Origins was great, but it showed us the Industrial Revolution. It allowed us to climb to like big landmarks like the Big Ben and the Buckingham Palace, and it had a great story between a brother and sister, and me having a sister, and I'm her brother. It kind of formed a bond with Assassin's Creed Syndicate for me, and I love the bond between Jacob and Evie. Jeffrey Yohalam did an amazing writing with that. How about you?
So, I'm pretty much the same. I'm the sort of person that will literally lie down, take anything Assassin's Creed has to throw at me. I love the series, and Syndicate felt like a step up from Unity. It was fresh, combat was new and exciting, it was less vocal on stabbing, more common to the time of fist fighting. The only flaw I have on the series, and I know I'm probably going to get attacked for this, so get your pitchforks ready, is actually Jacob and Evie. They're actually a problem for me, and I like the idea, and I love how the missions split between Evie and Jacob. I think that works really well, and I love it. It's when you come to the world and your free roam bit, Jacob and Evie have two different play styles, but they're the same character in the way the free running works, the way the combat mechanics work, and it's just, you don't know who to play with. I played my first playthrough all the way as Jacob, and then some missions I played as Evie, and I was like, well, do I have to now play as Evie for the rest of the world, or should I go back to Jacob? And for me, you just didn't know where to quite fit in with the two characters. They were good, well written, good backstory, good dialogue, loved the interactions. I liked how Jacob was the cheesy older brother, but Evie was the more down to earth, serious.
Yeah, serious. Yep.
It's just, I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I only play Evie," or "I only play as Jacob," but that defies the purpose of playing two characters in the game at once.
Yeah, I mean, As for me, like, uh, at first I had like a little trouble playing between the two of them, but then I realized, like, as you said, Jacob is the funny one. So, uh, well, like whenever I wanted to have fun with like the Assassin's Creed Syndicate experience, I'd go as Jacob and, like, murder spree. Whereas Evie is like the more stealthy assassin and like serious. So like, if I infiltrate like a camp, I would go with her. Um, yeah, it just allowed like two different characters, yet we can control them at the same time. It was weird, but it wasn't like Odyssey weird, you know?
I do agree.
Yeah.
They were different. They were different enough to get a bond because I did enjoy, the interaction. I have, I'm a child of five, so I do have all siblings, and how them two acted reminds me of how me and my siblings acted.
Yep.
Ball and how they want to do it. Jacob, the way Jacob was, he reminds me of my brother being a bit of a goofball. And I know everyone makes memes about him and the Rooks, but I think that's really his character. He wants to be a gangster, and Evie's like, well, no, let's just do what we came here. He's like, no, let's have some gangs.
Yeah. Like I just love the interaction between them. Uh, like specifically at the start of this, like, the sequence, where you're introduced to Jacob and Evie Fry, the Fry twins, and uh, thing. Evie says to Jacob, "Have fun," and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's like such an amazing, like, brother and sister kind of having fun assassinating people." Like that line has come far with me, because whenever people tell me they're up to something, I'm like, have fun with it, like, uh, like their writing was just amazing for me. It's just like the mechanics of it was a bit hard to get used to, but we I got used to it eventually. I even named my car Evie. Yeah.
So, should we jump into the points that we've got listed then?
Oh yeah, of course. Let's do it.
Right. So we have 5 points to go over. That these points were provided by us by Josh. So we're doing what I did in Rogue, because I really don't think we can have a podcast without Josh. He's my main man, my brother in this brotherhood. So how we're going to work is we're going to go over his points and we're going to integrate them into a conversation because he has made some wonderful points that actually
Yes, he has.
I can't disagree with. So his first point he made was, for clarity, I didn't play Syndicate until after Origins. To this day, I have not spent any money on this game out of the principle. After the disaster that was Unity, I decided to vote with my wallet and not buy the game on release. I believe that the AC games needed a drastic change to give the loyal fan base the development they deserved. AC had started to feel like a cash grab, and Ubisoft seemed pretty happy to show no original ideas, mechanics, or significant changes in development of the game, and I wasn't going to give them my money. Now, I can't disagree with that. We are 9 games in by Syndicate,
Yep.
and it was Unity's parkour. Even the free running was the same as Unity. I've seen slow mo, and it's just the same as Arno, just a different skin. The combat wasn't any different than Unity. It just felt the same, but with fists. And I don't think he's wrong. I think he has a valid point, and I do agree with him. But I'm the sucker that would actually keep going back to Assassin's Creed, even if it was dried up by this point.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank Josh for having me in this podcast. And I also like agree with him, but to a point. I feel like Assassin's Creed Syndicate had some new mechanics to show us because like the combat system was a bit different. Like you had like a bare knuckle kind of fight going on instead of like a fencing system that Unity showed. The bare knuckle fighting was like like really good, especially in like the fight clubs. Um, like I felt like a champion in them, and uh, like other mechanics like would be the controversial rope launcher, right? Uh, uh, thing. The rope launcher was a bit too much to the Assassin's Creed franchise, but I want to get your point on this, Declan. Do you like? Uh, do you think you would climb the tall buildings of London if it were not for the rope launcher? Like say if you played the game like for like 6 months, because I feel like uh, the rope launcher was there so that the verticality of the world doesn't become boring.
I do agree with you. My case in point for the rope launcher is Assassin's Creed Revelations with the hook blade.
Yep.
Um, the hook blade mechanic was used as a way to traverse buildings a bit quicker, even though there was some combat uses. And this game, there was no combat mechanics. It was just for traversal. And seeing how a lot of the buildings in Assassin's Creed are one-to-one scale for the time, which means legitly in-game is the same size, which is terrifying.
Yeah, right.
And I really don't think anybody would scale Big Ben without a rope launcher because it does fit in with the era where people were inventing things. This is the era where the telephone would have been invented. So inventing a rope launcher wasn't a bad idea. I just think how it was presented was stupid. Like I just don't like the fact that you do all this stuff without it, and then all of a sudden a gang leader swings in like Spider-Man off a rope launcher.
Yeah,
You
that was a
beat
bit
him.
tacky.
Yeah, and that got me. And then what got me, and then all of a sudden was you may be doing this mission as Jacob, but then suddenly it's, oh, actually, no, Evie has to be the first one to use it. Evie has to be the first one to do all this missions. We're going to talk how it's now been built. But when you give it to Jacob, it's just like, oh, I made a spare one. Like it's a second thought. And to me, it just felt it's a great mechanic, great for the traversal, but its presentation wasn't that well developed. You know, if it was something like the Hook Blade or the Phantom Blade from Unity, where assassins were using it and it was integrated, it would have felt more built into place, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's just my only problems with it.
Yeah, yeah, I get you. I do think it was a bit overused because, like traversing around with like a horizontal kind of line was like, okay, that's a bit like tacky. Like I just want to scale buildings with it, not go across the buildings with it. So so that thing bothered me because like uh in a technical sense, how would you do that? Like a person can't just like pinpoint some some place in the building and then exactly just like jump jump right off and go to the other building. So yeah, that was kind of annoying, but I don't know. It's an assassin fantasy, so
Yeah, so you can't be too nitpicky on the fantasy, but I think there was a lot of potentials it could have had. If in my eyes, if the um, grapple launcher, as I'm going to nickname it, was able to pull up a full-bodied person, why couldn't we use it in stealth scenarios? Like if we could use the rope dart in 3, why can't we use the blade in this thing similar? Because there was a lot of um, rope beams in some of the hideouts. Just drop the grapple, jump down. It's the same mechanic as the rope dart, and you're hanging somebody.
That would have been cool. I didn't even think about that.
It's
That would
just
have been so cool.
it's just the problem is they're doing what they did with Unity, which was a pain, which I forgot to look over last week till this week, is they started to make the hidden blade um, a shadow. Like in all the games up with Ezio, the hidden blade had so many potentials. Like I wasn't happy with it in combat, but there was the gun, the poison, and in Unity it was just crossbow stealth only. And I rarely used the crossbow function, to be fair.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I rarely have used. And then here it's like, you know what? Here's a rope dart thing, well, grapple launcher. Just use it for buildings, nothing else.
Yeah.
I was like, well, hang on a minute. What about the stealth mechanics? What about hanging people or disarming a big brute with it? The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I like to assassinate my enemies on like a close proximity. So I didn't use like the Phantom Blade or something uh like that, but like the rope dart would have been so cool because I loved using it in Assassin's Creed 3 a lot. Especially like hanging people. I hope Valhalla has that. Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because oh God, uh, just taking care of enemies with Avor's rope dart. Oh, that's gonna be mental.
Right. So I think looking over the notes, uh, we'll join note 2 and 3 together because they do flow quite nicely.
Yes.
Right. So Josh's next points were that said, this is a better game than Unity. No faultless and undeveloped multiplayer mode just slapped in the game for the sake of it. No connection to a broken website, no requirements to use a terrible companion app, just collect things in the game. 1860s London feels great, with its towering chimneys fitting of an industrial revolution, and each district has its own charm and personality. And it's better than Unity because it undid some of Unity's mistakes. This is not saying this is a great game, it's average. A game in the series that's crying for a break and change the rushed development cycle. Side missions aren't all that fun, and with 700 collectibles, there's an overwhelming sense of why bother. This feels like a game struggling to find its identity. The stealth stance from Unity, the support system from Brotherhood, and vehicle combat from AC and Black Flag, which is not boats this time, it was clear that this was the point in the series where Assassin's Creed no longer knew what it was. And I do agree because have you ever played any of the Batman Arkham games?
Yep. Arkham
Can
Knight.
you honest can you honestly tell me, and I hate to say this because I am a fan of the game and do like, but can you honestly tell me that Syndicate at points does not scream Arkham Knight?
Yeah, with the rope launcher, definitely it does. uh,
For me, we've got the rope launcher, like you said. There's the combat itself with the combo meter. If you think the Arkham series always uses a combat meter, and if you get hit, the combat goes down. Same here.
yeah.
It's hand-to-hand combat system, which is just like the Arkham series. And there was even a few Penny Dreadful missions, which was just like the detective missions from Batman. And as Josh has probably put, it does feel like a game where it needed to find its identity, but it couldn't. But I blame this on Unity's backlash. Because of how Unity flopped, I think they were just trying to do everything new to make this game succeed, but it didn't pay off the way they wanted.
Yeah, partly that, and like okay, Unity Unity flopped because of like um the like the graphics in the game were were a bit like, you know, not okay. But now it's a better game. And what I think of it is Assassin's Creed Syndicate is like uh, a collection of all the Assassin's Creeds together, um, but in a funny, but like made in a funny way. Like it, it brings a lot of like mechanics from like Josh said, Brotherhood, Unity, AC3, and and Black Flag. But what it does good is that like it makes fun of the series too. Like ooh, is it Assassin Christmas? Um, yeah. And like the Alhambra Ezio picture uh that was there. Like, yeah, it struggled in finding its identity, but again, this was a game that that was previous to AC Origins, and um, Assassin's Creed was shifting its like gameplay. So AC Origins was supposed to be the game that had its own identity, whereas Syndicate was basically uh, celebrating all the other Assassin's Creeds, but at some points it got it wrong.
I can agree there, and I think it did get a lot of stuff right. And it's nice to see a series trying to collaborate from the past because I do personally feel that's what Assassin's Creed mistake has always been, and that's ever evolving. Because evolution in games, but you need to keep some core mechanics, and it is essentially a Kingdom Hearts effect in a game where the series is that long, that convoluted, that it's coming to a point now where is its identity? Is it the original, or is it the identity it's got now? And just like games like Kingdom Hearts that's gone on for so long, whenever you go back to the series, you don't know where to jump in because you don't know where the stories fit. You don't know where everything handles, what goes what's the chronological order, what's the timeline order. And my biggest problem with Syndicate is a similar effect to Doctor Who, where after all these 60 years of Doctor Who and writers, there's no episode now where that looks the same. And Syndicate's the same. So many developers and writers have created this game to the point that they try and have a nod at everyone else, but it doesn't pay off in the way it should, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like Syndicate is like this. It, it, it was as modern as Assassin's Creed can get, and I don't think I don't think it's a good game to start the Assassin's Creed series with. Maybe it, it it's a good historical game. But if you want to start with Syndicate, start with Syndicate because it's like in my opinion, it was like really good looking. It was a beautiful world, but it's just not the place where you can start an Assassin's Creed uh, game like an Assassin's Creed franchise in. I'd say start with Assassin's Creed 2, um, or go chronological. Start with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and then go to Assassin's Creed 1 and Assassin's Creed 2, and like of course AC Origins too, but like Odyssey is great too. But play Assassin's Creed Valhalla, then play Assassin's Creed 1. Let me know what you think.
But that's the whole problem. That's why I always refer to these games of having a backwards effect because Assassin's Creed's so old now that some people just play Syndicate because of how it looks. And if they get really into it and then they think, oh, hang on a minute, this game's a bit cheesy, a bit light-hearted, combat's a bit fun, I'll go try number one. And then one's more serious, more focused. And that's where you start to realize that Identity by Syndicate was just completely not what Identity was back when it started. And I think this is the problem that I think why Origins was the best way to reboot in a sort of sense, because it creates this new identity that doesn't feel too far away from the first one. So should we move on to point 4 and 5 because we are 25 minutes in?
Yeah, of course.
What?
Yeah, of course.
I forgot I like to talk.
Yeah, me too. I love this topic.
So Josh's next point, which core gameplay is solid and not boring, but again, no evolution of any mechanics that have any significance. This game helped by Unity's massive performance year previous was the straw that broke the camel's back for the fan base. And Ubisoft, I think, consider some other open world games that came out in 2015, Witcher 3, Metal Gear Solid 5, Fallout 4, Bloodborne, Batman at Night. Where does some Syndicate compare to these? Absolutely nowhere. And as a fan of the series, it's heartbreaking to see how far the series had come and how far the series had fallen down, considering the absolute joy they had brought to my gaming experience in the past. I'd hoped and prayed that Ubisoft would either have the Syndicate series die or make some drastic changes. Thankfully, they opted for the latter and gave fans a little taste along the way.
Yep.
And now I see where he's coming from. Syndicate was for me. Luckily, I played Syndicate, then 2 months later, Origins came out because I was a bit late to the PS4 party, so I'm blessed.
Nice.
But on hindsight, if I played Syndicate when it came out and I had that gap till Origins, I would have classed Syndicate as the last game in the series. To me, I do love the game, and I agree where Josh comes. I've played Fallout, Bloodborne, and Night, and I think they are better than Syndicate. And that's horrible to say because I find Assassin's Creed one of the most top games I play above everything else. I played Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood and Revelations over Skyrim any day of the week. And I'm a big Skyrim fan. So I do agree about his viewpoint on Syndicate.
Yeah. Syndicate came out in a period where a lot of popular video games came out, like The Witcher 3. I've spent about like more than maybe 200 hours playing that, and Metal Gear Solid 5. I still have to get into Metal Gear, to be honest, but and like Batman Arkham Knight, I played that too, and Syndicate, like Josh said, with its identity and what do you call it? With its identity, it was like it didn't know what it could be, but I liked the game because it showed a lot of the experiences that we've had as assassins. Now, where was I going with this? Basically, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, when it came out, it was fun to play. I enjoyed it. I didn't like the antagonist of the game a lot, and I played the game basically. I played the game not with one go. I was playing it one day or 2 days ahead because the antagonists, they weren't intriguing for me. Like I said, I love Jeffrey Holland's writing, um, but the antagonists, like Starrick was, I'm like, but why are you like dangerous to me? I don't know. It was just the game was entertaining for me, but there were a lot of other video games then, and like I just got like lost in the mix. But I did finish Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and it was a fun experience in summation. Sorry, that took long.
All right. For me, Syndicate is the perfect example of a 12-year series with so many writers, so many developers dipping in the pot along the way that it comes to a point where it felt like they had no idea what to do next. And that's why I do think this is why I always link Assassin's Creed to the Doctor Who TV show, because I know that's a series for a long time now, and that's had thousands of writers, and that has got no identity anymore because there's no canon because of how many times people have added new stuff or took stuff out. And Syndicate is a byproduct of that. It's a new game with new features added in, but features taken out, new lore added in, but maybe some lore was taken out that we don't know about. You know what I mean? It's just kind of how much had Assassin's Creed invested in 12 years, but also taken away that could have stayed in. And that's my biggest problem. I think when you look back at games like Unity, Free, Black Flag, they had so many great mechanics that have just gone. There was the rope dart, there was the hideout, and the homestead from 3 and 4. That was a really good mechanic. You know, it made the world feel alive. Unity had really good innovation with the parkour, and the world felt a bit dense and lived in. But in some areas of Syndicate, the world felt open and flat. Even though it's a big city, sometimes I don't get that bustling vibe. There's some areas I've gone across a bridge and I've just seen like one or two carts and maybe one or two people, but the Thames underneath just looks like a Frogger game. Just all the boats coming and going, and they're all on like a loop.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
yeah,
It reminded me of Frog. I think if you stand and watch the boats on the Thames, it's just like a game of Frogger. They just keep coming and coming, like an old 1940s Frogger game. And
yeah.
I just think it just got to a point where there's nothing left. It was just a series that needed a great kick in the backside to start new.
And it did have a great kick. It had AC Origins, and Origins, like, refreshed the series into like great extent. But I gotta say, before we end the podcast, I gotta say, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, uh, while it was a short game, it showed a lot of history because I, and I love Ubisoft for this. Ubisoft showed World War One in
Yeah.
in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and it showed it as a present day. If you go into like the options menu, it showed it as a present day. Um, and I like that because, like, they acknowledge that is a present day, and I kind of think they're not gonna go, that forward in the future. But they had the chance to go in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and they did, and they gave us a uh, small world to like play with as Lydia Fry, um, and I loved that experience. I loved seeing Winston Churchill, in his young days. Like, you play these games and you see like Winston Churchill as a young person, right? And you know what great lengths this guy is gonna go to in the future, and now you have this chance to like interact with him. Like, that's what I love about Assassin's Creed, and that's what I love about Ubisoft, because Ubisoft doesn't shy away from like including more history in Assassin's Creed. And like I deeply respect them for that. Uh, yeah, it's just man, I love Assassin's Creed.
So do I.
Yeah, like
Um, so it's come to the end of the show, and as we always do every week at the end of the show, before we give our scores, um, because we're nearly at the 40-minute mark, one thing you love the most about Assassin's Creed, we'll both give one thing we love, one thing we didn't like, and then we'll both do scores, and I'll read out Josh's score, which has seemed to vanish, but I know it off by heart.
are you gonna ask me about my favorite landmark?
Yeah, you knew what I was going to ask. Your favourite landmark is the one thing I want to know, and I'll tell you my favourite landmark,
Okay.
and one thing about the game you didn't like.
Okay, so my favorite landmark in Assassin's Creed Syndicate has to be the Buckingham Palace. Because just like given the option to like go inside and like meet with the queen, it it's so awesome to me, especially Queen Victoria. I've researched like Queen Victoria and the Buckingham Palace. By the way, that's also going to be in the historical threads soon. Um, but yeah, like I just love the Buckingham Palace, especially since I've been watching The Crown, and I'm like, ooh, like fancy. But yeah, as for the score, no, as for what I liked about the game was fun and it was funny. It had amazing uh, protagonists, in my opinion, and Paul Amos and Victoria Atkin were amazing as Jacob and Evie Fry. Um, what I what I don't like about Assassin's Creed Syndicate was its antagonists or its villains. They were a bit underdeveloped, but like you know, it's not always going to be great. There has to be some flaws along the way. But all in all, I love the experience Assassin's Creed Syndicate gave to me, and I would rate it at a 4.5 out of 5. Maybe four, it's along the 4 and 4.5 for me.
Well, I think we try to keep it as whole numbers because I'm bad at maths. So we'll go
Okay.
with 4.
Yeah, 4.
I'm bad at maths. Leave me alone. Um, for me, I love the landmarks I love the most is the factories because it's how much the world was industrialized with the smog, how deep and how vibrant the factories felt alive, and you saw the children working. It just felt true to the core of the time, and I quite like that detail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love the game for what it tried to do. I love the location, the history. I like the combat after a while. I enjoyed the story. I just didn't like the feeling that it felt like, was this the end for the series? That's what it felt at times. And it's for that reason I'm going to give the same score as Josh, and that's a 3.
Mm.
I'm going to give it a 3 because it had so much potential, but on hindsight, if you played it without playing or knowing Origins is coming next, Syndicate does feel like it could be a full stop in the series.
Yeah, yeah, but
So,
thankfully we had AC Origins that changed the equation of Assassin's Creed.
and next week's deep dive will be all about the AC Origin. I'm excited about that one because I played that one from Christmas Day when I got it all
Ooh,
the way until January 31st, non-stop. Every day for 4 hours, I played that game.
you must have been
I
a
will.
jolly assassin.
Oh, I was a jolly assassin. It was Jacob would say, "What is this, Assassin Christmas?"
Assassin Christmas.
I knew I could get Jacob in there somewhere. So, because this is a unique one, I'm not going to give it a giant score out of 10. This is just, we're going to chalk this up as an average, I'll probably say 2 3s and a 4. We'll probably go with an average 7, but we won't count to the total tally because this is a special episode. It's all we've got time for tonight, sadly. But it was great talking about Syndicate. Great to
Yes,
have
it
you on
was.
board, Ash.
Thank you
I
so
hope,
much.
I hope I pronounced your name wrong. I do have dyslexia.
Arshak. It's a rare Armenian name.
It's an awesome name, but I tried pronouncing Connor's name once.
Yeah.
Please, guys, we're not going to do this again. Do not ask me to ever pronounce his name. So, thank you all for tuning in. And I can't wait till next week when we talk about Origins, because that means we're 1 week closer to Odyssey and 1 week closer to talking about the modern day.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So am I.
Uh-huh.
So, thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Alrighty. Thank you, guys.